Hey, welcome. Today we're going to demonstrate how I use abstract value contrast sketching to warm up before working on more finished art, and also at times as a meditative practice. This is something that complements blind contour drawing and drills like quick gesture sketching and other ways of warming up and training your drawing muscles, both in your brain and in your hands, over time. What I'm currently doing is just drawing random straight lines at different angles to create odd geometric shapes. Occasionally there's a regular shape like a triangle, but for the most part these are at off angles and they're very random, almost stream of conscious. Just going with the flow. And now what I'm doing here is I'm going to pick a random corner and start shading a gradual graded shading pattern, starting with the darkest value first in that initial corner, and then work to gradually create a gradated fade to the other side of the shape. So you can see here with this triangular shape, I started with the point that is downward facing as the darkest value corner, and then I'll move to the adjacent shape to the opposite corner, the one that's opposite of the corner of the first shape that possessed the darkest value, and then follow the same pattern. And we'll continue this throughout the rest of the haphazard design that was created by those straight lines. And occasionally we'll add an additional line just to bring a little bit more structure to the pattern. And here we go again, almost the opposite side of the original dark value shaded area on that very first shape. Move to the other side of that shape and try to position the darkest value at the opposite end. And we'll continue this throughout this page. Now, there's a couple of practical applications here. As mentioned earlier, more experienced drafts people can use this as a warm-up. Those that are new to drawing or trying to refine their skills, we're practicing a couple of really important foundational skills here. And one of those is mastering the control of your shading. And this will help if you're trying to render different planes, or even circumstances where you might be dealing with more complex geometric shapes, and you have to account for the cast shadows and shadows of other types that you need to account for. By mastering this ability to control the rate at which the different gradations occur, and doing this with the use of different drawing and writing utensils, can really help you develop a high level of confidence in your ability to shade and create shading effects in any scenario and with any tools, whether it be pencil, pen, charcoal, and paint for that matter as well. This also can help when we think about our ability to develop our broad-based observation skills as well. In this case, we need to work through a little bit of a puzzle that we've created ourselves by making judgment calls on where we start with the darkest value areas in each of these adjacent shapes as we work through this little puzzle. And by the way, you don't need to use this same series of shapes or types of design elements. You could use just about any shape. You could fill your page with circles. You could fill your page with more conventional geographic shapes. I've had colleagues and students that have used this and have incorporated specific designs like stars and even motorcycles, automobiles as part of the overall design, and have followed the same process to create some really, really interesting artwork. So I'll just make my way through this whole entire series of shapes and follow that same pattern. And when we finish up here, we'll have an interesting, really interesting group of effects that occur, depending upon the arrangement of shapes in the little abstract drawing that you do initially. It can sometimes be quite mind-bending, with regards to the impact it has on the viewer. In this case, this is a really small sketch pad, using very inexpensive paper, and as you can see, the retractable pencil. So we'll work through this. We will leave part of the paper blank where you see those darker lines. I used a 4B pencil to kind of darken those lines, and now I'm going through and increasing the contrast between light and dark within each of the individual shapes with that same 4B pencil. And here we have it, the finished drawing. That's the result of this exercise, and I'll put some final touches by taking out some of the marks that maybe seem out of place, and I'll lighten up some of the intermediary lines within the broader shape and let the contrast between the shading efforts that I've made here with my pencil kind of do all the work here by minimizing some of those lines that were I've created in a heavy-handed fashion. So hope you enjoyed this and give it a try. I think you might find it to be a very helpful, constructive way to get those creative juices firing, and it's also low risk because we're not trying to render anything or create some sort of photorealistic drawing. We're just having fun playing with shading. Thanks for watching. Stay well.